You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Battista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself, Veronica Amaya. Are you being controlling, or is it the only way to get shit done? Ladies, welcome. You know that for those of you who are single, ready to mingle, working on your relationships, I love to bring you my colleagues who are the best. And so in today's episode, I have brought Veronica Amaya to the studio. She is a relationship and dating coach, of course, and founder of the Conscious Relationship School. Love the name for that. And guess what? For all you ladies who say men never do this work, it's not true, because Veronica works with men and women to help them build lasting relationships filled with respect and understanding and love. And she has been working as a coach since 2019, and she's helped thousands of men and women overcome dating anxiety, resolve toxic, unhealthy relationship patterns, and keep attraction alive through what she calls healthy polarity. So I'm so happy that you're here.
Oh, thanks so much. It was a wonderful introduction.
Well, I'm excited to really talk first about this limiting belief that so many women, I was talking to someone just yesterday, actually, and she was like, I realized that I'm angry at men. I'm like, what? Let's talk about that. And she was like, I believe that women are the ones that are always doing the work in relationships, and, that men just sort of show up and that we have to do all the leadership and all the work. And I'm just curious, like, is that true in your experience? Are you working with a lot of men? And if so, kind of what are the issues or challenges they're coming to you with?
Yeah, I'm really glad actually they're saying this. I just literally had a session before with a client. It was exactly the same story. What I do think is true that women, I think, are more open generally to seeking help. But what I've also found is that, unfortunately, women are often not, I think, aware how severe they are also impacting men, kind of like their own toxic patterns.
Yeah.
And, which are, for example, around spilling out emotions, pressuring their partners constantly, a lot of criticizing. And I feel like this is a big shadow within the feminine. So I always try to tell my feminine clients, and especially if you want him to change, I mean, you know this for sure, right? Like, there's no point if you tell him 5,000 times a day how terrible he is and that he has no emotional intelligence skills, and he should do X, Y, Z. I mean, yeah, it just doesn't work. So I actually, in my webinars, so in the Conscious Relationship School on Meetup, I give free weekly webinars, and so many men come there, and I just really love it, because I think that more and more they are really looking for different ways of relating. And they just have a very different approach to things, much more rational. But I think that, yeah, it is definitely changing. And for me, I really love working with men, because usually they are very interested actually in creating like a team experience. And for me, it also works well because I also approach things very rationally. And yeah, so I love to work with men.
I think this is a really important thing, because you said two pieces I want to really highlight. One is that when we come into the dating experience, the dating intention, and we're like, men suck, like if that's your core belief, and it might be that you have been with men who sucked. I mean, that can be true. That there's a piece of where like that blame is almost like serving you and protecting you. So how do you see this showing up with women, like that feminine shadow that is sort of like judgment or criticism or blame? How is that actually a reflection of the work that we need to do? And when you see that with the women that you're working with, where do you start?
Yeah, so one of my most popular webinars is called Finding Love, How to Remove Subconscious Blockages to Relationship. And this is literally the first thing I talk about, exactly what you were saying. When you approach dating, but a part of you is convinced that, men are, they are not interested, they are kind of like weak, they don't really want to connect, they will anyways, what's the word? Cheat on you,
Yeah, yeah.
If you have this vibe within you, first of all, you have these glasses that you interpret any action of men, any behavior so negatively, but also you're going to attract men that are exactly like this, that fit this belief, because we always, we like it when our beliefs end untrue. So I really encourage women, and I practice with them how to change those beliefs. And in my own life, I used to be such a woman. I had such negative beliefs. For me, it was from childhood, because my mom had severe trauma from her dad, and she was convinced, that men are the reason why our world is messed up. And that's all the messaging I've gotten. And since I changed this, I tell you, I just meet amazing men. So so I encourage my clients to think of all the ways that men are amazing, to counterbalance this belief. And then at the end, what's the reality? The reality is there is horrible men out there and there's horrible women out there, right? That's the reality. And that's where we want to land at. And how can you spot the terrible guys, right? That's a skill set.
Right.
Yeah. And how can you also spot the great guys, and then also encourage them and, respect them and make sure that they stay great and that they don't slip into those shadow behaviors.
Well, so I think the bottom line here is what you think about, you bring about. I know that's basic, right? But if you believe a certain thing, then you're going to have that experience, whatever that experience is. And that we have to look at how you create those new beliefs that will reflect what you want. I did a post the other day on Facebook, a story, and I was like, how often are you in action of what you want, or are you complaining about what you don't have? Right? Like, look at your responsibility there, because if you're out there and you're just constantly saying what's wrong, what you don't have, and that's where you're directing your time and your energy versus being in action of what you want, talking to men, putting yourself out there, having conversations, practicing being flirty, being right? Like, where are you going to put your energy? And that's kind of where you're going to get. So I love that, Veronica. Okay, so this question, I think people ask the most, and I think it implies there's a magic pill, but also I think there's some pretty specific things that we can do. And that question is, when you're with someone, is there a way to get the person that you are with to be more loving, to be more communicative, to be more engaged? As women, without being naggy or controlling, what can we do?
Yes, the great question. So what I teach, you said it before, is polarity, right? So it's the beautiful dance between the masculine and the feminine. And if a couple chooses, that the man is masculine, the woman is feminine, most couples feel best that way. And I really, really focus very heavily on respect as the number one need of men. And very, concretely, this means to really treat him never like your son. So never tell him what to do, never like constrict his life. And, because so many guys, they are like managers, they have really high paid job, they come home and then their wife, for example, tells them they have cleaned wrong. They when they go out with the kids, they do the food wrong. And they basically think, okay, at work, I'm this like high paying boss. And then I come home and I feel like this loser that can't do things right. And then they start to close off. And naturally, like a man like this doesn't want to give love anymore, right? So I really teach my client that this is so empowering to be in this position of actually honoring the masculine, like as much as you can. And of course, in the beginning, you really have to practice, because many of us, it's a habit, right? Like I used to be like this. I used to constantly belittle my husband because I wanted to stay in control, and I was hypercritical and I had real control issues. But since I stopped doing this, just before this interview, like he just comes to me and he just gives me like a 5-minute hug and he's like, Veronica, you're amazing. Oh my God, you're going to be so great, and it's natural. I don't have to tell him to like love me, but it is because I I constantly respect him and I constantly thank him for the work he's doing. So I try to give him this feeling that he is like a man that I respect and I admire like every day. And he pays me back in just loving me and making me feel really safe.
I love this. So let me ask you a really practical question, because I'm just, when I if you're watching this on YouTube, you know, I like kind of giggled when I asked that question, because I have been trying to get my freaking husband to make the bed a certain way for so long. I'm like, I was like, literally, where did you learn that you put the duvet over all the pillows? I'm like, I literally want to know, like, did he have like a bedspread growing? So it's because I see myself in this. Like, believe me, I'm not the perfect partner. And so I wonder, like, for women who are like, okay, Veronica, like, I won't be critical, but also like, I want my husband to like make sure that he makes the bed properly, or I do think there's a proper way to like make sure that my kids have nutrition. Or do you just realize like in the end it doesn't matter? Like, how do you reconcile, or is there a way to decide what is worth sort of correcting, or is just you don't correct anything? Like what's the fine line in there as type A people that we are?
That's so amazing. I just see you like getting really annoyed.
I know. I'm like, literally. And what's crazy is, and this is why I'm like, I'm very real with my listeners. Like, I tried to not care, and every time I walk by my bedroom and I see like a floppy thing of pillows, I'm just like, ooh, right. It hurts my heart. I could close the door, I suppose. What do you think?
When one of the best therapists I've ever had, he made me, I was living with flatmates, he made me meditate on the chaos in the kitchen. So yeah, it's an interesting question, right? Why do you have this issue with the bed? And I think that what I just noticed in the women, it's like this shadow feminine very often, because, you know, we came from very chaotic households. We often did not have a man to really hold us. So we start to have this controlling, basically coping mechanisms. And I want to say one thing, because I understand people say, okay, making a bed, that's maybe a control issue, but what about nutrition for the kids?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We all have a thing where we're like, because this is why I want to spend some time talking about this, because if you get like 10 women in a room, right, and even maybe 10 men, the men will even say like, yeah, you probably do have a better way to do it. Right? But that doesn't work, right? Like, I'm raising my hand. So elaborate on this.
Yeah. So in my opinion, because as I said, I used to be very much a super controlling person, and I really changed my opinion because I look at the long run. For example, let's say this example with the kids. I'm like, yeah, of course, good nutrition is important, but I think it's more important that the father feels really strong in himself, so that he knows that when stuff goes down, like he, you know, is in charge and he's like strong, he feels like a strong masculine man, and that he has this feeling whatever he does, like it's okay, and that he's capable essentially to take out the kids. Because I think when you do this for 10 or 15 years, you're going to have a man that feels very secure in his place as the father. He's gonna stay really loyal because, you know, he doesn't feel constantly criticized for little things. And I think that maybe the kids once in a while have like a Nutella lunch is less important, you know, is less important than this, essentially. And also combined with this is that if you start to have more trust in your husband or in your partner, very often he's going to step up in ways that you're going to find very surprising, because we have this mother-son dynamic very often in couples where women feel like if they would sort of like stop controlling everything, then, you know, everything would go down the drain. But if they would do it, maybe they would be very surprised, because suddenly their husband would be actually starting to take control and, you know, suddenly do projects his own way and just behave like a leader, you know?
Right. And I think, so I lived in an RV with my husband for 10 months. And we had this agreement about, like, obviously he had more flexibility in his schedule than I did. And so he was going to clean. And I was like, okay, like, clean, right? And then I came up with all these things in my head about like, okay, well, maybe we should have a schedule to clean. And then I sort of remembered, this piece and started doing it myself. And I was like, whatever, right? Like just whatever. And then what happened is he didn't really want to live in a dirty place either, right? So then he just started cleaning. And now he's a great cleaner all the way around. But it took me the awareness, the self-awareness that I was getting into that role of like, here's another thing that, you need to do that I'm going to tell you what to do. And once I just sort of let it go, it was like, of course, he's going to be a leader in that area. And I know these are really little things, but I think in relationships, once the butterflies and rainbow part is over, where you're like, yay, we're so in love every minute of every day, that these are the things that can sabotage a really good relationship and the thing that women complain about the most. So let me ask you this. So when you're able to be in your feminine, how do you amplify your ability to receive so that you can create that kind of emotional connection? Especially, and I think this is important, if your partner maybe doesn't love you the way that your love language is, or it doesn't look like how you want it to. Is there a way that we can continue to create connection and chemistry and all those things, even when we feel like, it doesn't look like other people's or what we thought it might be over the long term?
Yeah, I really think that the most important thing is to focus on yourself and how soft you are and how open even your heart is. Because, for example, I just had a session with a client before. It was a first session, and around her energetically was just this big, big, big armor, She was quite like a woman in charge. She had a very high, powerful position. And I could literally see, that it was quite rigid and just all these protective layers. And that is what, first of all, keeps all people out, more or less, but also especially for men. It's like what they want to be close with and where, they get into these, what we see in the movies, right? That they are just get so romantic and do all these gestures, is when you are able to be in your feminine, open-hearted softness, because that's what men love about us, that we have this ability when our heart is open. Like, I don't know if you can see it, what I'm doing. It's kind of like this inviting and receiving. And that is a practice that, you can really do yourself by working a lot with your fears of being hurt. Like that's, I think, the most important thing. And then also to start really softly communicating with your husband or your partner. Because like, when I say not criticize, of course, you should say your requests and how you feel. And if you say it in very soft ways, like he's picking up on it and he actually wants to make you happy. Like men usually live for this. Of course, if they, as I said, if they live with someone and constantly just criticizes them, they close themselves off. But if you can be able to stay in the soft space, and sometimes that means, that you're not going to get your needs met immediately. And maybe, sometimes you're going to have a lot of pain that comes up too. That's all part of softness, because many women then go immediately into anger instead of showing what's actually underneath. There's actually a lot of pain and a lot of hurt. So that is sort of like the deep practice you can do for yourself. And when you are in that space, I think the cool thing is with men that they are usually really logically oriented. And you could, for example, give him this problem to fix. You could tell him, look, darling, I love you so much. I really would love our relationship to get better. And I realize we have this mismatch in love language. Do you maybe have an idea?
That's so great. It's so great. And I think, and that goes back to my original thing, is like, if you're saying that the men are not doing any of the work, the question is, are you giving them an opportunity to step up and take leadership, or are you're doing all the work? Because I think that if you state your need and then you allow them to sort of figure it out, you do have to have patience, right?
Yes, 100%, totally. And that's also, I think, a habit often that we just slip into, that we just prescribe the way. But again, this is one of the masculine needs, is to be a problem solver, to actually help you. So if you resource him, he's going to be so grateful. And very often he's going to think of like really interesting things that you never even thought about. And of course, that also is a way to really feel loved, right? If your husband or your partner really thinks about, like, when you tell him a problem and he really, really thinks of a creative way to help you, like, oh my gosh, all this time, I thought he wasn't interested in me, but actually he's really deeply interested. There was just not even the space for him to express this part of himself because you were too quick. One of my tantra teachers always says, women are so quick. We need to like slow down, give them some space, and then you're going to be really surprised.
Yes. And I was just thinking, I just asked my husband for some help doing, I have to do a video. And I was like, oh, I wish I had a teleprompter, right? Because, when you make all these videos and you can't remember everything to say. And so the way that he does it is he sends me like 4,000 links of solutions. And the way I like to receive information is verbally, right? I get overwhelmed with links. And so it's like the energy, though, is of, and I think this is a really important thing about the patients, right? Is that the energy of what he's doing is like, oh yeah, let me help you, right? And if I just go, oh, you're just sending me these links, right? Then I lose the touch, right, with the energy of it, right? And go back to that critical thing instead of saying like, wow, my husband really wants to help me. He sent me these like 5 things of ways we could solve this problem. And so I think also it's about the way that you communicate or the way that you have patience or the way that you allow it to be a process. Because, and I want you to talk about this before we run out of time, is when you think about women who sabotage, whether it's dating or relationships, where do you see the mistakes? Because, the name of this podcast is Life Check Yourself. And I would just love to know if you see like some ways that women would sabotage the possibility of creating connection or finding their partner or having a better relationship.
Yeah, so when I talk about subconscious blockages, like it's really interesting why, right? Like very often many people, women and men, actually are terrified of the other gender. So they don't even want to go in relationships. So they have all these parts that like secretly manipulate. And so, yeah, often they come to me and say, oh, I really want to date. And I'm like, I'm not so sure if you actually want to date. But yeah, ways in which to do this is either, right, coming on too strong, just being so like pushy and very, from the beginning, super emotionally overwhelming. I think this is such a thing where, after the second date to say, oh, so what do you think about me? Don't do that.
Right?
Not a good idea.
Where is this going? I don't want to waste my time.
Exactly. And he's like, well, we only know each other like a week. Yes. I think that's a big thing. I think in general, playing all games, like, kind of like, oh, I really don't like all these videos. Text him, don't text him, blah, blah, blah. Pretend, you're not interested. Yeah, that is, I think, a big thing of manipulation. Sorry. Yeah. And also, I would say, being also just too controlling in general, like even on the dates. Like that would be my number one tip for everyone in relationships or in dating. The more you can give up control, the more you can be like relaxed and really focused on yourself and try to be in this mode of enjoying, and letting him like take care of things. I think this is the most relaxed way you can be, and men will just love it and will just come to you and will just be so attracted, because very often women don't have this anymore. This the beautiful, actually more like an ancient way of being around men is the relaxed feminine that goes with the flow, and that's the men do. Charge ahead, secure a table.
Right. And then I think that people get so confused then because they're like, oh, well, that's not really who I am. Like, why do I have to pretend to be this certain way to get a man? And I mean, I posit like that underneath, like we all have that part of us. We just have to kind of access it. How do you answer that question when someone says, why should I have to like be a certain way to get what I want? Why can't I just be me, which is controlling, bossy, whatever it is?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so my answer is really similar. So most of us, our personalities are really fake because they are buried under trauma and very much created from coping mechanisms from childhood.
Right.
So I encourage them to go on a deep journey of finding really your authentic self, because I used to be exactly the same thing. In the past, I said, oh, I'm going to have a houseman and I'm going to be like the big lady, boss lady, brings money. Yeah, because I had a lot of limiting beliefs around men and because I was quite traumatized. And now I am like my really authentic self just craves for a man to protect me and to really be a strong leader. And for me, I love to be in this feminine flow. That feels really authentic to me. So if you go on this exploration date and really you feel that your authentic self is kind of like more bossy, then I'm sure it's within your path to find a man that also likes that. But I would say most women actually, when they peel off all those layers, they will find that they want to be in this relaxed feminine state.
Man, that's so true. This has been amazing. You all definitely check out the link in the show notes. It's a link to Veronica's Linktree, and she has so many free things. She has this free meetup group that she was talking about where she does these weekly live webinars, and there's men on there, it sounds like. So you could even be with real men and prove to yourself that you're wrong, that men don't care. She has a free complimentary session and a great ebook about satisfying relationships. So make sure that you check out everything that she has to offer. Thank you so much. I just feel more relaxed just being in your energy, and it's such a great reminder to chill, to allow, to receive, and to really be what we want to create in our relationships. Thank you for being here, Veronica.
Oh, thank you so much. I wanted to also thank you for your work. It's just wonderful. Like, I think you're helping so many thousands of people all around the world. Yeah, thank you.
It takes a village, girl. Ladies, so many tips and tricks here. They're not really tricks. They're tips. They're ways that you can practice being your authentic self, or you could be radically honest. One of my favorite principles is radical honesty. You can re-listen to this episode and be like, are there some areas where I'm hiding? Are there ways in which I'm casting blame? Am I not being patient? Am I not being present? So many possibilities for growth here just in this 30 minutes of juicy love. So make sure whatever you do, and always life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Battista, and let's talk soon.